The Hellcat's Revolution, Speed as Armor in World War II. December 7, 1941, Detroit, Michigan. The radio in Harley Earl's design studio crackled with static, its urgent reports cutting through the Sunday morning quiet like a blade. Pearl Harbor was burning, battleships sinking, skies choked with smoke and zero fighters. At 48, Earl, the architect of America's automotive dreams, stood frozen, his wire-rimmed glasses glinting in the dim light of the General Motors Technical Center. His pencil, usually dancing across paper to sketch sleek Cadillacs or chrome-laden Buicks, hovered still. America was at war, and the call that followed from the War Department carried a weight heavier than any design brief he'd ever faced. German panzer tanks were tearing through Allied forces in North Africa, their 3.1-inch steel armor shrugging off British and American guns, their 88mm cannons reducing tanks to smoldering wrecks. The Army needed a tank destroyer, fast, lethal, and capable of stopping the Wehrmacht's armored juggernaut. Military engineers at Fort Meade pushed the conventional path: thicker armor, bigger guns, heavier steel, a rolling fortress to match German might. But Earl, gazing out at Detroit's industrial skyline, saw the problem through a different lens. Physics was unforgiving. Heavy armor, powerful guns, high speed. Pick two. His son, Lieutenant James Earl, a Navy pilot facing zeros in the Pacific, made this more than engineering. Every line he drew could decide whether families received letters of pride or grief. In a moment that would reshape armored warfare, Earl rejected the fortress mentality. He envisioned a tank destroyer that didn't withstand hits, but evaded them entirely. Armor just 1 inch thick, weight slashed to 20 tons from the standard 35, and a staggering top speed of 60 miles per hour, faster than tanks decades later. This audacious gamble birthed the M18 Hellcat, the fastest tracked vehicle of World War II. A machine that traded steel for swiftness, turning hunters into prey and rewriting the rules of combat. The war's grim reality, December 1941. In Fort Meade, Maryland, Lieutenant Colonel Andrew D. Bruce hunched over a cluttered desk surrounded by manila folders thick with battlefield reports. Each page told a story of German dominance. British Matilda tanks burned in the Libyan desert, their crews buried in shallow graves. American-made Stuart light tanks, nimble but undergunned, reduced to twisted metal by Panzer IV's 88mm shells. Bruce, a tactician with a chessmaster's mind, saw patterns in the chaos. The Wehrmacht's edge lay in superior armor, 3.1 inches of sloped steel, coupled with disciplined crews and radio-coordinated tactics that left Allied forces outmaneuvered. Current U.S. tank destroyers were makeshift. 75mm guns bolted onto trucks or half-tracks, their crews exposed, slaughtered by German ambushes. 200 miles north, Earl's studio was a hive of restless creativity. At 48, he was Detroit's design titan, his hands always moving, sketching invisible curves as if sculpting the air. His team, artists who had shaped America's automotive soul with flowing fenders and chrome dreams, gathered around drafting tables, peacetime sketches swept aside. Steve McDaniel, Earl's interior design chief, laid out technical specs beside artistic renderings, his meticulous nature bridging vision and engineering. The call from William Knudsen, Roosevelt's production czar, was stark. Buick must deliver a tank destroyer to outrun and outgun panzers, a machine that didn't exist. Early sketches revealed a vehicle unlike any tank, sleek, low-slung, its profile more akin to a streamlined racer than the angular behemoths of Europe. But Army intelligence reports crushed optimism. Panzer IV's frontal armor was impervious to U.S. 37mm and 57mm guns, and Wehrmacht tactics, flanking maneuvers, concentrated fire, outclassed Allied responses. The brass demanded heavy fortresses, like Germany's Tigers, to slug it out. Earl, tracing geometric patterns on the requirement sheet, saw a different path. His son's Pacific missions, where Zero's speed trumped armor, echoed in his mind. Speed could be armor. Agility could be protection. The stakes were personal. Photos of young men in uniform lined Earl's desk, his son James, friends' sons, Detroit sons. Every design choice could mean life or death. As 1942 dawned, Buick's Flint assembly lines fell silent. Civilian production halted. The factory that had crafted luxury cars now pivoted to war, its welders and machinists retooling for steel and survival. Earl faced the gamble of his career, a design so radical that it could either revolutionize warfare or doom American crews to fiery graves. Crafting the impossible. March 1942. March brought biting winds to Detroit, chilling the cavernous GM Technical Center. Earl's team huddled around a clay mock-up, its torpedo-like profile a stark departure from armored norms. Its low silhouette and flowing lines seemed built for speed, not war. Earl's hands glided over the clay, his touch reverent, but his eyes heavy with responsibility. This machine would face 88mm shells, not highways. He announced the specs: 1-inch armor, 20 tons, 60 miles per hour. The room fell silent. Engineers, steeped in decades of heavy tank design, were stunned. Such armor could barely stop rifle fire, let alone anti-tank rounds. Steve McDaniel, his slide rule a blur, confirmed the gamble. Survival through evasion. If it couldn't be caught, it couldn't be killed. The team pushed technology's boundaries. A torsion bar suspension, years ahead of civilian cars, ensured stability at high speeds, allowing accurate gunnery on the move. The differential and transmission were redesigned to handle extreme torque, a challenge that tested Buick's automotive expertise. The heart was the Continental R975 radial aircraft engine, 400 horsepower, 16 liters, air-cooled to eliminate vulnerable radiators, a common Panzer target. Specifications solidified: 55 miles per hour top speed versus German 20 miles per hour, a 176mm gun to pierce armor at 500 yards, and a 150-mile range with 165 gallons of fuel. But reality struck hard. The T-49 prototype, rolled out in summer 1942 at the GM Proving Ground, hit only 38 miles per hour, its transmission buckling under the engine's power. Gears stripped, differential housings cracked. Washington critics pounced, calling it a hot rod death trap, too fragile for combat, too complex for field repairs. Military observers struggled to classify it. Traditional doctrine favored heavy, concealed tank destroyers, not Earl's agile Predator. Conservative voices in the Ordnance Department questioned whether American crews could master the tactical finesse needed to wield such an unconventional weapon. Earl's team doubled down. McDaniel led redesigns, new alloys for gears, reinforced housings, advanced cooling systems to manage the R975's heat. By winter, the T-70 prototype roared onto the Milford Oval. Earl watched from the observation tower, his breath catching as the tachometer climbed: 40 miles per hour, 50, 55, then 60 miles per hour, faster than any tracked vehicle in history. Cheers erupted, a rare moment of triumph in the grueling design process. But new challenges loomed: developing tactics for a machine that defied doctrine and scaling production for war's insatiable demands. The Hellcat logo emerged during this period, a snarling wildcat biting tank treads, emblazoned with the motto, "Seek, Strike, Destroy." It captured Earl's vision, a hunter, not a fortress, designed to stalk and kill. Production preparations began at Flint, retooling lines for 20-ton hulls, installing heavy cranes and welding stations to handle armor plates. Forging a war machine, April 1943. Buick's Flint plant transformed into a cathedral of industrial might. Assembly lines once humming with luxury sedans thundered with the chaos of Hellcat production. Earl patrolled the floor daily, his trained eye catching imperfections, a misaligned weld, a faulty bolt that could spell disaster in combat. Each unit cost $55,230, $746,000 in modern terms, a precision instrument of war,
embodying America's technological ambition. The conversion was monumental. Heavy-duty cranes replaced automotive hoists, lifting 400 HP radial engines into steel hulls. Arc welders sparked across armor plates, their glow illuminating faces of workers, men and women, many new to the trade, filling gaps left by drafted veterans. McDaniel's team introduced maintenance innovations. Engines mounted on steel rollers for quick swaps, reducing repair time from days to hours. Torsion bars, forged from specialized alloys, were tested under simulated combat loads, rejecting any with microscopic flaws. Wiring harnesses, routed with automotive precision, ensured reliability under battlefield stress. Production peaked in late 1943, 3 shifts running 24/7. Women, dubbed Rosie the Riveters, worked alongside seasoned machinists, their precision matching Detroit's legacy. Earl ensured aesthetic and functional harmony, ergonomic controls for intuitive operation, wiring harnesses designed to withstand mud and shrapnel. Quality control was ruthless, each component tested to survive the harshest conditions. By spring 1944, 5 T-70 prototypes, now designated M18, shipped to Italy for battlefield evaluation. Fort Hood established specialized schools to train crews in high-speed maneuvers, gunnery on the move, and tactics to mitigate the open turret's vulnerabilities. Unlike traditional tank destroyers, which relied on concealment, the Hellcat demanded aggressive, predatory tactics: strike fast, vanish faster. Combat's Crucible, January 1944. Anzio Beachhead. Bitter cold gripped the Anzio beachhead as 3 M18 Hellcats arrived with the 894th Tank Destroyer Battalion. Sergeant Tommy Richardson, a 26-year-old from Chicago with 2 years of armored combat, checked his Hellcat in pre-dawn darkness. His breath clouded the frigid air, his hands numb as he inspected the 76mm gun and fuel lines. The Hellcat's sleek profile stood out among the angular M4 Shermans and M10 Wolverines, its lines more akin to Earl's Cadillacs than military hardware. The first engagement came without warning. At 0700 hours, Panzer IVs burst through morning fog, their commanders confident in Wehrmacht tactics. Richardson's crew, trained in high-speed maneuvers, roared to 60 miles per hour, flanking the enemy in a blur of dust and exhaust. The 76mm gun punched through side armor at 500 yards, felling 2 Panzers. But frontal shots against heavier Panthers and Tigers bounced harmlessly, the 3.1-inch armor too thick. The open turret, designed for visibility and weight reduction, became a death trap. Shell fragments whistled through, and German snipers targeted exposed crewmen. McDaniel's team after-action reports to Detroit painted a stark picture. The Hellcat's speed was a game-changer in reconnaissance and hit-and-run attacks, outpacing slower M10s. It could circle German positions, striking from unexpected angles before vanishing. But against heavy tanks, its 76mm gun struggled, and 1-inch armor offered no protection against anything larger than small arms. Winter compounded issues. The air-cooled R975, efficient in temperate climates, left turrets freezing, crewmen huddling in greatcoats. Mud and snow bogged down tracks, stressing the transmission beyond test conditions.
The psychological toll was heavy. Crews, trained to rely on speed, lived with constant vulnerability. The open turret, a sniper's dream, forced hyper-awareness, eroding morale. German commanders adapted, directing small arms fire and artillery to suppress Hellcat crews, exploiting their exposure. Some U.S. units requested M10 Wolverines for defensive roles, where thicker armor provided psychological comfort, if not guaranteed survival. Earl, reading reports in Detroit, faced mounting criticism. Had his gamble, sacrificing armor for speed, cost lives? Yet in fluid battles, the Hellcat shone. In Normandy's hedgerows, Hellcats ambushed panzer columns, their speed enabling rapid repositioning. Crews like Richardson's learned to exploit terrain, using hills and forests to mask approaches, striking and retreating before German gunners could adjust. The Hellcat's impact, summer 1944.
By summer 1944, Hellcats proved their worth in dynamic campaigns. In the breakout from Normandy, they spearheaded pursuits, outrunning German retreats. A single Hellcat platoon disrupted a panzer counterattack near Caen, destroying 4 tanks in minutes by exploiting side shots. By war's end, 2,507 Hellcats were built, claiming 526 enemy tanks for 217 losses, a 2.4-to-1 kill ratio, remarkable for a lightly armored vehicle. German intelligence respected the Hellcat's speed, dubbing it Der Geist, the ghost, for its elusive nature. Wehrmacht tactics evolved to counter it: concentrated infantry fire, minefields to slow maneuvers, and ambushes targeting open turrets. Yet the Hellcat forced panzers to fight reactively, a psychological blow to crews accustomed to dominance. Earl faced detractors. Some commanders argued heavier M36 Jacksons with 90mm guns were better suited for frontal assaults. But in reconnaissance, flanking, and pursuit, the Hellcat was unmatched. Its speed saved lives by avoiding fights it couldn't win, embodying Earl's vision of survival through agility. The Hellcat's legacy. The Hellcat's legacy transcended its 2,507 units. It influenced post-war designs like the M41 Walker Bulldog, embedding speed in U.S. armored doctrine. Earl returned to GM, his wartime innovations shaping automotive giants like the 1953 Corvette, its lines echoing the Hellcat's sleekness. The Hellcat's production showcased Detroit's industrial might. Maintenance innovations, engine swaps and hours, modular components set new standards. The open turret, a flaw in static battles, was a strength in fluid warfare, offering unmatched visibility for spotting targets. German commanders debriefed post-war admitted the Hellcat's impact. Oberst Hans von Luck noted, "Its speed disrupted our plans. We couldn't predict where it would strike." The Hellcat forced a rethink of armored tactics, proving agility could rival armor. In 1994, a restored Hellcat stood at the National World War II Museum, its snarling logo faded but fierce. Veterans, now in their 70s, shared stories of outrunning panzers, their pride undimmed. Earl's son survived the Pacific, a personal triumph. The Hellcat's 60-mile-per-hour sprint wasn't just a technical feat, it was a lifeline, saving countless lives through audacity. The Hellcat proved that in warfare's brutal calculus, innovation could outshine brute force. Earl's gamble, speed over steel, rewrote doctrine, showing that Detroit's ingenuity could defeat the Wehrmacht's steel. It wasn't perfect, but it was revolutionary, a testament to the men who designed, built, and fought in the fastest tank destroyer of World War II. The human heart of the machine. Behind the Hellcat's steel was a human story. Earl, driven by his son's peril, poured his soul into the design, sketching late into the night, haunted by the faces of young soldiers. McDaniel, a quiet craftsman, worked 18-hour days, knowing each gear he perfected could save a crew. Richardson, frostbitten at Anzio, drove through exhaustion, his Chicago grit fueling every maneuver. Crews faced terror daily. Private Eddie Kowalski, a loader from Pittsburgh, wrote home, "The Hellcat's fast, but you feel every bullet whizzing by. Speeds are armor, but it don't stop the fear." Yet their courage turned theory into reality, proving Earl's vision under fire. The Hellcat's 400-horsepower heart, its snarling logo, and its 60-mile-per-hour legacy embodied America's spirit: bold, inventive, relentless. It showed that war wasn't just about steel, but about ideas, daring to defy physics and tradition to bring boys home.